Today on The Spin, it's a rivalry weekend in college football. Are the Fighting Irish for real? And is this a Super Bowl preview? It's all next on The Spin. Hello, my friends. Ali Melendez here with Sports Insider's The Spin. Thank you so much for joining me today. Well, the college season has reached the final weekend of the regular season with rivalry games across the country. And even more exciting, there are a ton of teams still in the mix for the first ever 12-team playoff with all kinds of possibilities out there. Now, the announcement of the 12 teams, of course, comes out a week from Sunday, and rest assured, there will be plenty of controversy around who is in and who is out. So the boys will get to the biggest games on this final Saturday of college football in just a minute. But first, a quick shout out to our friends at BetOnline. Now, all of our odds here on The Spin are provided by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and #1 source for everything, and I mean everything, football. That, of course, includes odds on who will make the 12-team college football playoff, all of this weekend's games, and plenty more. So be sure to head on over today. Thanks so much, BetOnline. We love you. Just a few quick kisses to really, hone in how much we love you. All right, let's get to it, shall we? Here with a look at the biggest games on the college slate, including that huge rivalry between Texas and Texas A&M. It is our very own Drew Butler and Gabe Ikard. Welcome, fellas. What's going on?
Thanks so much, Allie. Drew Butler and Gabe Ikard here to preview the final weekend of the college football regular season. Can't believe it's here. Also, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there tuning into The Spin. It's Sports Insiders. And Gabe, we have a ton of action to preview. It's rivalry week, so there are plenty of implications all across the country when it comes to the 12-team college football playoff. And let's dive right into it. We will start in the state of South Carolina. It is the battle for the Palmetto State. The 16th ranked South Carolina Gamecocks heading across the state to take on 12th ranked Clemson inside Death Valley. Kickoff noon Eastern over on ESPN. Clemson a short 2.5-point home favorite. This total sits at 49 points.
If this game was in Columbia, I would have zero hesitation picking South Carolina to cover and picking South Carolina to win outright, but it's not in Columbia, but I'm still picking South Carolina to cover. Yeah. I think they're the better football team at this point in the season with the way that Lenora Sellers is playing at the quarterback position for South Carolina. I just really like the Gamecocks' chances of moving the ball, especially with their run game when you combine what Sellers can do with his legs and what we've seen from Rocket Sanders lately. Cade Klubnik's been really good this season. I've been impressed with the way that he's played, but can Antonio Williams or Bryant Wesco, can those guys make game-changing plays in this game? I don't know. We're going to find out, but I'm expecting this to be an awesome game. I just think South Carolina has a few more difference makers on both sides of the ball. I view this one as a coin flip. I know that it's going to be a crazy atmosphere there in Clemson, but I'll take the points with the Gamecocks.
Tough not to take those points with the Gamecocks. Both of these teams on the outside looking in at the moment for the 12-team college football playoff. Clemson still has a chance to make it to the ACC championship game, and there are starting some whispers around South Carolina, how they've been playing as of late, and could they, if they win this football game this weekend, be deserving of a college football playoff bid. Here are some very interesting statistics and trends in this matchup from Evan Abrams. Gabe, Clemson's been favored in this series every year since 2014, and the Tigers are 8-1 straight up and 6-3 against the spread in that span. How about this one? The Tigers and the Gamecocks have played each other 7 times when both are ranked inside the top 25, and South Carolina is a perfect 7-0 straight up and against the spread in those meetings. South Carolina is one of the hottest teams in the country. There's no doubt about it. As I mentioned, some college football playoff whispers are starting as potentially a 3-loss SEC team could be getting into the college football playoff. I don't know about that, but Lenore Sellers, Gamecocks quarterback, he has been finding his stride, not to be outdone by Cade Klubnik at Clemson. He's having a sensational season. He really is. After a tough start in that neutral site game against Georgia, Klubnik, 29 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions, racking up almost 2,800 passing yards. South Carolina, third in the nation with 39 sacks, led by stud freshman defensive end Dylan Stewart. He is going to get his. You said it, Death Valley will be electric, but I'm riding with the hot-handed Gamecocks. I think Shane Beamer, head coach for South Carolina, gets a big win, and South Carolina will be waiting to see what happens the rest of the day to potentially get a college football playoff bid. So I am with you, Gabe. Give me the Gamecocks plus 2.5 in Death Valley. All right, let's head out west to Southern Cal, 6th-ranked Notre Dame, 5th-ranked Notre Dame in the AP poll, heading out to LA to take on the Southern California Trojans. 3:30 p.m. Eastern time kick over on CBS. Notre Dame, a 7.5-point favorite. This totals 51 points.
USC got bowl eligible last week, so that pressure is off of them, but I still think there's a ton of pressure on Lincoln Riley and this football team in this game. And then everything is on the line for Riley Leonard and the Fighting Irish in this one. You look at USC's offense. They made the change at quarterback. Jaden Mayava has looked good. He's done some nice things, but he hasn't seen anything like this Notre Dame defense. And I could see him struggling against that group because I think Notre Dame's got one of the better defenses in all of college football. I have the feeling that Marcus Freeman's group is going to show up to the Coliseum and try to prove a point. I think they're going to tell them to shut the gates, and I think they're going to try to mush USC in this game. And we'll see how the Trojans hold up, but I don't think it's going to go particularly well for them. I don't like their chances in this football game. I'm going to lay the points with Notre Dame. I think that they're the better football team. I think they're going to be the more physical football team, and I think they're going to be able to run it on that USC defense. So I'll lay them.
No question that Notre Dame is the better football team than USC. The Trojans having an upsetting season when it comes to wins and losses. Lincoln Riley, yeah, he might be off the hot seat for a little bit, but he could right a lot of wrongs with a big showing against arch rival Notre Dame this weekend. Southern Cal, with all the games they've lost this season, Gabe, they have not lost a game by more than 7 points throughout the 2024 season. And as a favorite of 7 points or more versus USC, Notre Dame is just 2-7 against the spread in the last 40 years. How about this? You wonder why Notre Dame has been on such a tear after that loss to Northern Illinois. They're second in the nation with a plus 16 turnover differential. You mentioned Jaden Mayava taking over for Miller Moss at the quarterback position for Southern Cal. Offense starting to find their stride, not as inconsistent, not as high and low. They're kind of middling around. He's not making as many mistakes. But here's the thing. Has Riley Leonard been forced to throw the football on the road at all this season? Can USC stifle Notre Dame's rushing attack to put the ball in Riley Leonard's hands on the road? That is their key to victory. You can look at the domination that Notre Dame has had, winning 8 of their last 9 games by double digits, forcing 26 turnovers this season, leading the nation in that statistic. And you'd have to think there's an opportunity here for USC to keep this game close, muck it up. Like you said, just grind this game out. But everything is on the line for Notre Dame. They win this game. They're in the college football playoff. It's a big number, 7.5. But, Gabe, I have to agree with you here. I'm going to lay the 7.5 points with Notre Dame on the road. They seem to be on a warpath to kind of prove the doubters after that second week loss to Northern Illinois. So you and I, same side, Notre Dame minus 7.5. All right, we've all been waiting on this one. It is the Lone Star State Showdown. Texas heading back to Texas A&M for the first time. These two teams have faced off in 13 years. Primetime, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time kickoff on ABC Saturday night. Texas, a 5.5-point road favorite here, Gabe. This total, 48 points.
How great is this? Exactly what you want for this game. This rivalry being renewed with the spot in the SEC championship game on the line. Yeah. Clearly, a lot of CFP implications in this one. And when you look at a game this big, a lot of the times I look at who has the better head coach and quarterback combination. And I think Texas has the advantage there. I think that when you look at Sarkisian and Ewers and you compare them to Elko and Reed, I think that you just trust Texas more when you're doing that exercise. I also think Texas has the better defense in this game. But I'm taking the points with Texas A&M. I just think Kyle Field is going to be insane for this game. It's going to be a really difficult environment for Quinn Ewers and that Texas offense to handle. And the key is for Texas A&M to slow down Texas's running game.
Right.
If they aren't on schedule, Quinn Ewers has proven in second and long and third and medium to long situations, he'll make a mistake or two, especially if he's feeling pressure. And Texas A&M certainly has the defensive linemen that can get to him and make him feel that pressure. It seems like a bit of a redemption opportunity for Texas's offensive line after how things went against Georgia early in the season.
Yeah.
But Marcel Reed has to make good decisions. He has to play really well. But I'm expecting this to be a one-score game late in the fourth quarter. So I'm going to take the points with the home team because this is college football, Drew, and things, sometimes the better and more complete team doesn't just handle business the way that we expect them to. So you factor all of it in. I'll take the points with Texas A&M.
Yeah, after the chaos that happened last weekend, it's tough not to look at that point spread and say, give me the Aggies. Also, a key buy low spot here for Texas A&M after that loss at Auburn in 4 overtimes last week. As I mentioned, first matchup in this series in 13 years. The last time this game was played was on Thanksgiving night back in 2011. Quinn Ewers also dealing with a mild ankle sprain. Gabe had an MRI after the win over Kentucky last week. Seems like he will be good to go for this weekend, and there's huge implications in this game, not only for the college football playoff, but as you mentioned, winner of this game, going to the SEC championship game for the first time to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. Playing on the road in the SEC is hard. You keep hearing coaches say that week in and week out, and it's proven to be very true, specifically for Texas A&M. They were the only undefeated team in the conference just a couple of weeks ago, Gabe, and they have since dropped 2 conference games, both of those games being on the road. Kyle Field will be rocking. Texas has lost to the only top 25 opponent they've played all season long, that, of course, being Georgia. And I love Marcel Reed's dual threat ability. The Aggies front seven should be able to present issues to Texas's offensive line, affect Quinn Ewers. I got to take the primetime home underdog in this spot. Going to be a phenomenal game. Gabe, it's Thanksgiving week. It might be the only week throughout the entire regular season you and I have been on the same side all 3 games. We'll save the best for last. Yeah, of course, we'll be back next week for conference championship week, but give me Texas A&M plus 5.5 at home. Going to be a perfect nightcap to tons of football action throughout Thanksgiving weekend. Of course, all lines provided by Bet Online. What a way to usher in the Thanksgiving week right here on The Spin. For Gabe Ikard, I'm Drew Butler. Allie, will throw it back to you.
All right, well, thank you so much, gentlemen. Always appreciate your insight. Now, hang on because Drew will be back with us in just a minute. But as I mentioned earlier, I've got to tell you that our odds here on Sports Insiders The Spin are provided by Bet Online, the world's most trusted sports betting platform. So, with the college football playoff coming up, NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball, you get the picture. There's no better place than Bet Online to get in on all the action today. So my friends, do yourself a favor and go check them out. And of course, speaking of action, it's another big week in the NFL, including what could be a Super Bowl preview with the Eagles and Ravens. So here to break it down for us now, Drew Butler, Anthony Becht, and Jonathan Casillas. Welcome, guys.
Thanks so much, Allie. Drew Butler back once again, but this time we're talking NFL football. And of course, it's Thanksgiving week. Happy Thanksgiving to my guys, Anthony Becht and Jonathan Casillas. One of the best weeks of the year. So much action. We're taking a look at this weekend's top games. We'll start in the AFC North. The Pittsburgh Steelers heading to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday over on CBS. Anthony, right now, the Bengals are 2.5-point home favorites. This total sits at 47.5 points.
Yeah, well, been really tough season for the Bengals right now. I kind of look at this, if it already hasn't happened, an elimination game for this football team. And a Steelers team that played in a Snow Bowl last Thursday, and you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, if the snow wasn't there, what would have happened? I thought they played well. The problem that I look at this game is, as bad as maybe the Bengals record looks, Joe Burrow has been one of the best quarterbacks in football. Incredible. 27 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. They got a ton of explosive weapons. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins can't be covered right now. These are problems. And, listen, I get it. The Steelers' defense is good. They can get to the quarterback. But Joe Burrow always has a plan. He understands. He sees it differently. He gets the ball out. He can extend when he needs to. He's been hit. He's been sacked a ton this year, but he keeps bouncing back. I think he's got enough time for one more. The guy's an ultimate competitor. I just don't know if the Steelers have enough explosive weapons. They're really going to have to lean on complementary football, which they've done the whole season. But I just think, man, the Bengals at some point get this thing turned around, get themselves a legit win. I think it happens this week. I'm going to go and lay those points with the Bengals this week at home.
I hear you, bro. Look, the Steelers last week, they played the Browns in the snow. They outrushed them. They outpassed them. They were +2 in the turnover margin, and they still lost, right? And then Russell Wilson, his first loss as a Steelers starter. But you look at the other side, what the Browns did. The Browns had Myles Garrett, and Myles Garrett had 3 sacks in the snow. If you look at the Bengals, their defense is bottom 5. I think that's why they're struggling so much. But they do have Trey Hendrickson, who's having a great year, 11.5 sacks on the season. If the Steelers can do a good job in protecting Russell Wilson and keeping him up, or whoever's playing quarterback for them, I think they can go into Cincinnati and get a big win off this look, you said it. Burrow's playing very well. Jamar Chase, but their defense is horrible. Yeah. Every single week they're giving up 30 points, a lot of rushing yards, a lot of passing yards. They just can't slow anybody down. If the Steelers have that type of way against Cincinnati, I don't even think the game's going to be close. I got Steelers.
Wow. Yeah, Bengals coming off a bye week. Steelers played that Thursday night game, so people are calling that the mini bye now. Maybe that rest advantage has been a bit negated for Cincinnati. And Anthony, you said it. Joe Burrow is having legitimately an MVP type of season, but the team is awful. Their offensive line is garbage. The defense can't stop anybody. It is quite the conundrum when you look at how to handicap the Cincinnati Bengals, which makes you scratch your head and think, well, why are they 2.5-point favorites when they are 4 games behind the Steelers in the division? Yes, the Steelers off that snow globe game against Cleveland where they dominated Cleveland in pretty much every statistical category and somehow lost that game. But this line to me is extremely suspicious. Here's what I know. And guys, we all know this. The Steelers just started playing divisional football a couple weeks ago. And I think they're going to start to revert back to the mean, especially in the AFC North when you get to late November and December. These games are tight. Home field advantage is real. And I think the Steelers could be reverting back to the mean with this stretch of divisional games. I feel like Burrow and the Bengals can come out firing after the bye week. The biggest question for me is, how is their offensive game plan going to limit the effectiveness of TJ Watt in the Steelers pass rush? Because they are pinning their ears back, wanting to get after Joe Burrow. If the Bengals can be explosive, I do not think the Steelers have enough explosive weapons to keep up the pace on the scoreboard. So I'm going to lay the 2.5 points with Cincinnati as well. All right, let's go to an unbelievable game at 4:25 p.m. Eastern over on CBS. These are 2 of the best teams in the NFL at the moment. The Philadelphia Eagles heading to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Right now, Anthony, the Ravens are 2.5-point favorites. This total sits at 50 points.
Yeah, going back and watching both of these games last week, you talk about just really dominance against opposing teams. Go out west for the Eagles, take care of business against the Rams, running the football. Saquon Barkley, we've talked about him at nausea, the fact that what he's done on the ground. My question is, is Jalen Hurts ready to step up and be that guy when needed? And I think this is a game where he may be needed, right? Look at the Ravens on the flip side, man. We've talked about their defense struggling, but, man, they went against a Chargers team, quite frankly, that wants to run the ball. There's no secret. There's no surprise about it. And they stood up for the challenge. J.K. Dobbs didn't play the whole game against them, but, again, they were effective, and they got to the quarterback as well. And the Ravens just, again, offensively, Lamar Jackson, you look at this game and you think, okay, this may be a Super Bowl preview down the road.
Yeah.
But I really do think it comes down to both of these quarterbacks. I just don't know how you can say Jalen Hurts matches up better or equal to Lamar Jackson right now. I think the Ravens come home. They kind of put Eagles in their place. I think, like you said, also about the last game, about bringing teams down to their mean a little bit. I think the Eagles have been playing well. I think they've been on top of it. They've been fairly balanced. Their run game's been there. But what happens when the run game doesn't show up and now quarterbacks have to shine? I just think it's really out-leveraged on one side versus the other with Lamar Jackson. So I'm going to lay those points, man. I'm taking the Ravens at home.
I like it, man. We're not on the same page today, Anthony. Look, I
going with the Eagles, Jonathan. Holy cow!
I know, right? Well, listen. When I look at the Baltimore's defense, man, they're last in pass, and of course, I think that's partially because their offense is so good and they're playing with leads. So teams are not running the ball against them late. They have to pass the ball late in games, but their secondary is just not doing what they need to do against the pass, right? And the Eagles, they don't really have to pass the ball because they're running the ball so efficiently with Saquon and Jalen Hurts, and is making Hurts' job that much more simpler and that much more easy. A.J. Brown is one of the best receivers in the league. Whenever he's healthy, he's top 5. He's big, he's strong, he runs great routes, he's great after the catch. And I think they'll be able to take advantage of this Baltimore defense that's very porous. Now, I'm sitting here thinking you're going to say this is a popcorn game, Anthony, because you have basically the 2 leading MVP candidates in Lamar Jackson and Saquon Barkley. Yeah. So I'm going to sit back and watch this game go. But I think Philadelphia Eagles are strong enough to beat Baltimore on the road.
Anthony, you mentioned it could be a potential Super Bowl preview here. Let me just say this. If it's Philly and Baltimore, or even if it's Buffalo and Detroit, New Orleans, you better get ready because those fan bases will absolutely bring it for a Super Bowl week. These 2 teams, though, featuring 2 of the biggest offseason acquisitions throughout the entire league. The Giants, head-scratching decision to let Saquon go to NFC East division rival Philly. And then, of course, Derrick Henry leaving Tennessee, going to Baltimore to complement Lamar Jackson and that run game. And it's working out. Saquon Barkley, an unbelievable 2-week stretch, 255 rushing yards a week ago. Simply incredible. And Derrick Henry just brings exactly what Baltimore needed to complement Lamar Jackson. You saw the statistic on Monday Night Football. As of right now, the Baltimore Ravens are setting an NFL record throughout history for yards per play on offense. These are 2 of the best rushing attacks in the NFL. Of course, they feature 2 of the top running backs, and these teams love to go for it on 4th down. And why wouldn't you? Jalen Hurts, he's mobile. Saquon can get it done. Lamar Jackson, MVP. Derrick Henry, essentially unstoppable. But with the Ravens laying less than a field goal, I think there is a lot of value there. Jonathan, you mentioned A.J. Brown being one of the best receivers in the NFL. The Eagles are 8-0 straight up when A.J. Brown plays in a game this season. I think the Ravens defense is fast and physical enough to limit Saquon. So I'm going to go with the home team here. I'll side with Anthony. Give me the Ravens -2.5. Okay, let's finish things up with some Sunday Night Football. I think at this point of the Thanksgiving weekend, everybody is going to be stuffed to the gourds, but that's exactly what you're supposed to do. The San Francisco 49ers heading up to Buffalo to take on the Bills, 8:20 p.m. Eastern kick over on NBC. The Bills, a big 7-point favorite, Anthony. Total's 45.5.
Yeah, everybody will be stuffed. Turkeys will all be cooked and finished off. I'm thinking the 49ers may be that same place right now.
Wow.
Are they cooked? Are they done? No Brock Purdy last week, Bosa, but they had a lot of their weapons there. And you think about the play calling and Kyle Shanahan not being really able to scheme up anything to get that offense to do anything against the Packers. They just looked bad across the board. And I get it. When you don't have your quarterback on offense or defense, that's a problem. Yeah. Now, Purdy's expected to play in this game. It's a shoulder. We all know that works. It's going to be cold as hell in Buffalo. I know that. It looks like it's going to snow Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at some point. So there's going to be some freezing weather going on there, and those are difficult situations. When you talk about achy bodies, shoulders, you take those hits, you hit a hard turf. That's a problem, especially if you play the quarterback position. So it's just something to keep your eye on. And if it does happen, again, I think these are key things to talk about because of the fact that, how far can a quarterback go? How does that feel in the passing game? And you look at the Buffalo side of offensive side of the ball and what they've been able to do, passing the ball with Allen. They thrive in the elements. They thrive in these kind of games. They're getting plenty of rest. And this team, to me, looks like they're primed to make the run. There's a huge separation gap right now between anybody in their division moving forward. They're a game behind the Kansas City Chiefs, who seem to be on the cusp of losing at some point, a few times maybe, leading into the end of the year and all the close games they're playing. So the Bills have to continue to stay in the chase and in that mode, because they can get that bye. If they get the bye and they can play a game up in Buffalo, that's a problem for the league across the board. So again, I just don't know right now. I know it's a big number. I get it. I just don't know right now if the 49ers are where they need to be to be in this game against a Buffalo team who's going to be ready and primed to go. So it's a big one, but I'm going to lay it, maybe take a half off this and bring it down to 6.5 possibly, just to feel comfortable with the touchdown win. But I think Buffalo can do that easily in this football game, just the way the 49ers are playing.
All right, now we're talking. Now we're on the same page, Anthony. I feel the same way that you do about Buffalo, man. They're rolling right now. And, I think you got to put some respect on what they've done over Josh Allen's tenure over there in Buffalo. They're horses every single year. They're rolling every single year. And this year is no different, right? They might be able to host the whole playoffs in Buffalo this year. And this is one of those games where they can add to their resume. On the other side of it, man, the 49ers have just been decimated by injuries. CMC missing majority of the season. He's back, but they're still trying to figure out, what he means to the team with Mason being there, him being a top rusher in the league. Purdy being out last week was very detrimental to them. They got smoked by the Packers. And that team that I saw out there, that 49ers team, is not the team that I'm used to seeing. That's been NFC favorites every single year. Yep. They're just not the same team that we're used to seeing. And Buffalo is. They're the same team that we've seen the last few years, rolling with Josh Allen. He's been doing a better job at protecting the football. And if they can continue to do that, I think there's going to be another route for the Bills.
Wow, guys, you guys zig. I'm going to zag on this one. Yes, the 49ers have been dealing with a litany of injuries to the point where this week might be the demarcation line of, is the season a lost cause? And it's only Thanksgiving. Really hard to imagine. Keep in mind, the 49ers win total for the season, 11.5, the under already good to go before Thanksgiving. Buffalo coming off a bye after beating the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs at home. Buffalo has to love the spot that they're in, looking already towards the playoffs. And Anthony, as you mentioned, the AFC East pretty much all but theirs at this point. Brock Purdy expected to play. Nick Bosa, Trent Williams expected to be back. The look-ahead line in this game was the Bills -3. Could this be an overreaction in the marketplace? I think so. San Francisco's going to want to run the ball. You mentioned the weather. You mentioned the conditions. Purdy's not going to want to take a lot of hits. Trent Williams should be back on the offensive line. You're going to have Nick Bosa there to hopefully affect Josh Allen. And get this, guys, the Niners are not completely out of the NFC West. No team has grabbed a hold of that division yet. Could the bye week have slowed the momentum for the Buffalo Bills? Sitting at home, it's Thanksgiving week. You're with your family. You're a little bit distracted. I think Christian McCaffrey, having a couple of games under his belt now, could be getting into his stride. I think this is an overreaction here. A lot of points. Give me the 49ers +7 on the road. Hungry dogs run faster. They're going to be more focused on the road this Thanksgiving week, so I will take those points with the 49ers. Speaking of being hungry, I'm hungry. It's Thanksgiving week. It's the best week of the year. Thanks for tuning in to the Spin Sports Insiders. All lines provided to you by Bet Online. For my guys, Anthony Becht and Jonathan Casillas, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I'm Drew Butler. Allie, back to you in the studio.
Wow. Yeah, I'm very excited for all the action as well. Once again, thanks so much to Drew, Anthony, and Jonathan. Well, my friends, that is all we have for you today. But before I sign off, let's give another quick shout out and another quick thank you to our friends at Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and #1 source for everything football, and not to mention everything in sports in general. So head on over to Bet Online and get in on all the action your heart desires. Okay, now for real, that is it, my friends. Go enjoy the great weekend of football and sports action. I know I will. And of course, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Sports Insiders The Spin.